Good morning. Good morning. If you guys want to take your seat, as you can see, or if you noticed, Steve's not here today. I was joking with my brother. This is his first legitimate Sunday since he's been here. He did have that week with the basketball injury that he had to miss, but this is the first legitimate week, I would say. But anyway, we are privileged to have Brian Scott coming to bring the message this morning. He is the president of our district of the CMA. We went through that whole little series about our district and just kind of our beliefs, kind of the background of it. And Brian is the president of our district, so I'm excited to hear a word from him this morning. But I was reflecting a little bit this past week, just about last year. And if you're new here, we went through a pastoral transition right around this time, and for some of us, for me specifically, it was a very somewhat stressful time. My daughter is going to be one in 10 days or so. So I had a lot going on, and we were in the middle of a very, very just kind of tumultuous season as a church. And right around that time was when Brian actually moved into that role. So we were just going through transition left and right. And I'm really thankful for him stepping into that role, the leadership that he brought behind the scenes. Zach, my brother, I'm sure he could testify to it, just of some of the chaos that we were going through. Brian brought a lot of leadership and a lot of just peace to us in that time. So whether you know it or not, he is a leader for us, and we're really thankful for him, and we're really excited to hear what he has to say. So Brian, if you want to come, and if you just want to welcome him as he comes to bring a word this morning.
Yeah, John, that was super humbling. Susan and I have a deep love for you. We have a deep love for this place. It's fun to pop in and see faces that are familiar to us. We have been in 29 churches over the past year. So I am a year and 2 days into this role. Susan and I are a year and 2 days into this role. And so we have been trying to get around to all the churches in our district, and kudos to Steve for doing a lesson, I guess a series on the Alliance. I was actually on my phone. I'm probably supposed to know these things, like the statistics and everything, but we are about 4 million around the world, but we only have 2,000 churches in the United States. So there's a brochure that I have usually with me that states those things, but we are a denomination that is more global than we are actually in the United States. But we still have about 2,000 churches in the United States. In our district, we have 40 churches. It goes up around Michigan, not the Upper Peninsula, and then Toledo and Bowling Green, that area there. If you are familiar with United States history, then you know that there was a battle between Ohio and Michigan. Yes, there is one every fall. But there was a battle at one time between Michigan and Ohio for Toledo. And Ohio was granted Toledo, and then Michigan was granted the Upper Peninsula. But in the Great Lakes District, we are in Michigan, and this part of Ohio, Toledo area, and Bowling Green area, and another district has the Upper Peninsula. So I like to tell people that you have the mystery of the Trinity, and then right below that, understanding the mystery of the Trinity, and right below that is understanding why we have districts where we have them in the Alliance. So, like I said, Susan and I have enjoyed going to the churches all around and meeting people. I would say, don't tell anybody, but I think we've been here more often than any other church in the district. That doesn't win you anything, but so one of the things that becomes awkward for those of you who know me, I spent time with John and Zach over this course of the year, a little bit of time, but I dislike titles. I dislike the formality of things. And so Susan gets really frustrated with me, because I make things awkward. I don't like to lead with what I do or my occupation or what role I have in the district when we go into churches. I just want to engage with people. I just want to get to know people, and yet, and probably this has been the case since I went into ministry, when you say what you do for a living, the conversation changes. And you probably have a little bit of that, maybe if you have a job or an occupation, that people start to form opinions based on superficial things, like what you do for a living. Or they'll start to form opinions on what family members you have. Maybe you know Zach, but you didn't know John. And so you met John, and you said, yeah, my brother's Zach, and automatically they form an opinion of you based on that. But if you have run into that before with somebody, you know how they say that first impressions are important. You just want people to know you for who you are, right? Just get to know me for who I am. Not for what I do for a living, not for who I maybe know or maybe even my family connections or any other connections. Just get to know me for who I am. We had just elected a new president of the Alliance. When was that? Well, actually, his first day was, what is today, the 3rd? Yeah, 2 days ago, August 1. So his name's Jonathan Schaefer. I don't know Jonathan Schaefer. He's my new boss, but I don't know him. So we were at a conference last week, and I was responsible for introducing Jonathan. Do you know how difficult it is to introduce somebody you don't know? It is painful. And so I was praying about this, and I was like, God, what am I going to say? I don't even know. I mean, it better be good, because I'm going to be reporting to this guy, but what do I say? And I really felt God say, just be honest. Just stand up and be honest. So basically, I stood up and I said, look, I've had 3 interactions with Jonathan Schaefer, and actually, I just met his wife. They were sitting right there. And I said, I'll tell you this. Everybody that I know that knows Jonathan, here are his characteristics. That's the best I could do. People that I love, people that I do life with, know Jonathan. Here's what they told me. The guy is super humble. The guy actually is passionate about gospel and about proclamation. The guy hangs around people that other people would say, yeah, I don't know if you want to hang around with those people. So if that's his character, I'll follow this guy. I'll submit to this guy. But the bottom line is, everybody had an opinion of Jonathan when he got elected, right? He could be under like under the radar. Nobody knows much about him. At council, there were 3,000 people there in Columbus. I don't know how many thousands were watching online, because it was an important council because we were electing a president. Once he got elected, there were probably 3,000 people at the site, and then thousands of other people that automatically formed an opinion of Jonathan. Maybe it was something that someone had said about him that knew him. Or maybe it was a friend of a friend of a friend who knew him that said something about him. Maybe it was something he said on a video, there was a intro video. Maybe it was something that they heard about his church that he came from. Maybe it was something they heard about his family. His family's an Alliance family. But everyone had an opinion of him. But who really knew Jonathan? Think about your own relationships. You probably have those people that are merely acquaintances, right? They are people that you maybe have run into, and maybe you don't want to run into them again, right? Maybe there's people that you have some connection with through another person, and then you're forming an opinion based on their opinion. Maybe there's people, though, in your life that you have a deep-rooted connectivity with. Think about those relationships. What has formed that bond that is so strong? probably shared experiences together, right? It's probably times when that friend, that spouse, that family member was actually there at a pivotal time in your life, where they selflessly, sacrificially engaged in life with you. We're going to talk about intimacy. Intimacy with God. What does that even mean? We throw that term around. Actually, in some of our churches, they make it a measure of success, which I love. But oftentimes we don't define it. But I would encourage you to think even now of those relationships that you have that are deep. You're safe, right? In those relationships, you're safe. You can be vulnerable. You can be open. You can be truthful. God wants that kind of relationship with you. That's what he desires as he pursues you. That song that Janae and the team just led, The Goodness of God, what is it? What's the line? Your goodness is pursuing me. What is it? Running after me, right? His design and his desire for a relationship is that you would experience the truth of who he is. Not just what someone else says, not just what the world tells you, not someone else's opinion. God desires that you would know him for who he is. We live in a post-Christian culture. What does that mean? That means Christianity is familiar to all of us, right? Most of us, at least in this part of the country, Sunday mornings, yeah, we find ourselves here, which is a good thing. Hear me. It's a good thing. But we know some of the rhythms. We know some of the habitual things that we do in a Christian culture. We know the terminology. We know the verbiage. We can talk the lingo with one another. When you're in those kinds of settings and in this kind of culture, oftentimes there's misunderstandings of who God actually is. Maybe you have some church hurt. Maybe the church in your background really didn't give us a picture of the character of God. Well, this morning, I just want us to look through some passages and actually an encounter that Jesus had. Jesus was misunderstood when he was walking this earth. There were a lot of things that were said about Jesus. His teachings were misconstrued. His actions sometimes were misconstrued. And he came, yes, to conquer death, to conquer sin, to give us an opportunity to have freedom with him, to be reconciled to him. But what we often miss is he came to give us an understanding of the character of God. That we have opportunity to see the character of God and to experience the character of God. This morning we're going to look at Matthew chapter 16. We'll start in verse 16, verse 1 through 4. Susan always tells me these little things right before I go up, and I never remember them. But she did say, hey, remember, they put the verse on the screen, so step to the side. So I want to give myself kudos to remembering what you actually told me right when I came up here. Once again, I don't win anything for that, but anyway. Chapter 16, verse 1. And the Pharisees and the Sadducees came to test him. They asked him to show them a sign from heaven. He answered them, when it is evening, you say, it will be fair weather. For the sky is red in the morning, it will be storm. You say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning it will be stormy today, for the sky is red and threatening. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times. An evil and adulterous generation seeks for a sign, but no sign will be given it except the sign of Jonah. So he left them and departed. Remember, Jesus was fully God. Colossians 1 says that the fullness of deity was in him. He was also fully human. That's a confusing thing. It's a mystery. But Jesus had emotions. They were perfect. He lived them out perfectly. But he had emotions. Can you imagine the frustration? Him coming. Philippians 2 talks about, it's a hymn, and it talks about him being obedient even unto death. He came as one of us, as a servant, wrapped in human flesh. He came to show us the character of God. Yes, the power of God. He was doing great and mighty things, but he was showing us the character of God, how deeply he loves, how amazing his grace and his mercy is. He was hanging out with people that no one else would hang out with. How frustrating it would have to be when the Sadducees and the Pharisees come and say, all right, prove yourself, as if he hadn't already, but prove yourself. Show us a sign from heaven that really says who you are, Jesus. And often I wonder if he would be like, I'm showing you who I am. Not necessarily only by the miracles I'm performing, but by how I interact with people. He was so attractive to some people. Yet to the Sadducees and the Pharisees who couldn't agree on anything. I mean, think about those of you who have kids, and as they grow and they're oil and water, they cannot get along. Emma and Alex, right? I don't know how they are, but if they don't have the same personality, they don't get along. I'm not really saying that's the case with you guys, but once Scott and Alyssa, let's just say, do you mind me if I use your example? Once they state something or do something that ticks them both off, man, they are fast friends, right? They have bonds that will not be broken. They've got a common enemy. The Sadducees and Pharisees couldn't get along with on anything, on theology, on doctrine, on anything, and yet they had a common enemy. And they came against Jesus. And they were saying to him, prove yourself to us. And Jesus had already proven himself of who he is in character, the fullness of God given to man that we would know who God truly is. So Jesus goes back to those who were attracted to more than just his miracles. Those who were the recipients of his grace and of his mercy. Those who were following him. So we skip down to verse 13. I think it was 13. Yes. So now Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, so I don't trip over anything. He asked his disciples, who do people say that the Son of Man is? Let's stop there real quick. So Jesus is going to his disciples who had given up everything, that they would just be around him, that they could just be in the proximity of Jesus. He was saying confusing things. His teachings were not easily grasped. And yet, they just wanted to be around him. Giving up everything. They could be close to him. And so he's asking them, who do those other people say that I am? And think about it. He's asking not even about what the Pharisees and the Sadducees were saying. He's saying those who did want to get that close to Jesus. Maybe it was those people that he had done some things and they wanted something from him. Maybe it was some people that had a friend of a friend of a friend who had had an encounter with Jesus and maybe took something that he said. Maybe a friend of a friend who was at the Sermon on the Mount, right, where he gave his discourse. Jesus is asking them, who do they say that I am? Well, for those who don't necessarily want to know his character and the essence of who he is, some are saying you're John the Baptist. I don't understand that. He was a contemporary. He was Jesus' cousin who was beheaded. Maybe John the Baptist somehow comes and consumes Jesus, and he's John the Baptist now. Probably because he's saying some things that tick people off. That was John, right? Maybe it's John the Baptist. Look how mad he's getting the religious leaders. Others saying he's Elijah. Look at all the miracles that Elijah did. All the stories that we heard about Elijah, they're similar to what we're seeing Jesus do. Well, maybe he's Jeremiah. Jeremiah was the weeping prophet, and Isaiah says that Jesus was a man of sorrows, right? So there was a sadness to Jesus. So maybe he's Jeremiah, or maybe one of the other prophets. And then Peter. Good old Peter. I really like Peter. He does some things that I tend to do. So Peter, it gives a response. So he said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" I imagine in my head, Jesus sort of asked that question and let it sit. Who do you say that I am? Who do you, who have given up your life to be in proximity with me? You are my followers. You have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly with what Jesus caused and the things that happened to Jesus. You who actually had some insight to some of my teaching. You who understood some of the reasons why I did what I did. I'm asking you, who do you say that I am? Simon Peter replied, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Simon, you got it right. Jesus says to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah." In other words, blessed are you, Simon, who come from humble upbringing. Blessed are you, Simon, fisherman, born of man, born of Jonah, having no really reason to know this. You're blessed. Because this was not revealed to you, flesh and blood has not revealed this to you. You didn't come up with this by your own intelligence. You didn't come up with this because someone, a friend of a friend of a friend, told you about me. You didn't come up to this because you had some logical process and you came to this idea or understanding of, oh, you must be Christ, the Son of God. Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah. Flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. So I tell you now, Peter. This name that was given to Peter, I believe, because he placed himself in a position to understand the things that he had no business understanding. You're Peter. You're the rock. I'm going to build my kingdom on you. But more than just on you. I knew I was going to do that. On this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Then he strictly charged the disciples to tell no one that he was the Christ. Now, I don't know about you, but when you have heard this encounter, you thought, what does it mean that I'm going to build my kingdom on this rock, on you, Peter? I don't know if you've had a art history course in your education, but you see a lot of paintings depicting what happened here. That Peter somehow was going to be the rock by which God was going to build his kingdom. There's a lot of commentaries, there are a lot of things that people have said about this. In my humble opinion, it's one of those things that, you know what, someday I'm going to be face to face with Jesus and he's going to say, yeah, Brian, you didn't get it right on this one. I'll probably say, okay, I'm good with that. But what I believe is this idea of intimacy, that Peter, I'm not promoting a gospel by works. Hear me. But Peter placed himself in proximity of Jesus, giving him opportunity to be understanding of who Jesus was. Heaven, the Spirit of God, the Father revealed to Peter who Jesus was. And Jesus said, on that I'm going to build my kingdom. On people who will develop an intimacy with me, who will put themselves in proximity of knowing who I am, that the power of God will be revealed to them, and on that I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Satan trembles at those who have developed and are developing an intimacy with Jesus, to know him who he truly is, his character, just not what he can do. Forgive me. There are churches across this nation, I'll specifically say that, across this nation, who have people sitting in chairs, in pews, that the enemy doesn't even think about. He's not even worried about them. Because it's about knowing Jesus for what he can do. Prove yourself to us. Show up here and show us your power. The enemy could care less about those people. Those who are worshiping Jesus, pursuing him, understanding his character, being in a place where they can be rebuked, they can be corrected, they can have this life with Jesus that is free and free-flowing. And we sang about it this morning. That is about freedom, about knowing who Jesus is, but knowing what he thinks and he feels and how he loves us individually. The enemy shakes at that. Those people are who the enemy wants to try to minimize. Hey, you know what? Why don't you just ask Jesus these requests? Don't spend much time with him. Don't practice any disciplines. Don't get into his word. It's good enough just to show up every once in a while. And you'll learn stories about him, but don't get too close. Stay out with those people that are more like, maybe he's sort of like Elijah. Well, maybe knowing Jesus will do me some good. Maybe, you know what? I can give a little money. I can show up every once in a while. I can do some good for other people, and that's good enough for me. That's not what Jesus is talking about. Those who pursue me, who understand me, who are receiving of God's correctiveness, of God's life, of God's Spirit. Those are the people that will crash down the gates of hell. You will see families, individuals, families, neighborhoods, communities, cities transformed by those people. Think about those relationships that you have, where you've sacrificed, where you've selflessly engaged in the relationship, where you've opened yourself up in vulnerability, where you've accepted the other person's life as a refinement of your own and developed a depth there. That's what Jesus wants. That's what he wants with us. Oh, would Anchor be that place that continue to pursue him? When he says something that's confusing, or maybe it's a little rebuke. Peter was rebuked repeatedly. He was rebuked all the time. The disciples were rebuked all the time, but yet they stuck. Those friendships that you have of great intimacy and connectivity and bond, those are the ones that stuck, right? When there was a disagreement, when there was something that was said, they stuck. Jesus longs for that to be the case with us. I always pause when I come across a verse like this because it's sobering. But Matthew chapter 7, it's not on the screen, but Matthew chapter 7, verse 21, sorry. Jesus is speaking. He says, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven. Not all those who know of me and say, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven. But the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day, many will say to me, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and do mighty works in your name? Didn't we do things that would give people the impression that we knew you?' And then I will declare to them," sobering thought, "and then I'll declare to them, 'I never knew you. I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness.'" In a post-Christian culture, I don't want to be a downer, but in a post-Christian culture, I believe there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be in that position. Yeah, I knew of him. Maybe it's like Elijah, maybe a prophet, maybe someone else I know. And they're going to get to that place. "Lord, Lord, didn't we do these things? Didn't you see us do these things? Didn't we perform well for you? Didn't we try to do the right thing? I never knew you." Here's what I would like for us to do. I have a few questions that I just want you to ponder on. Janae is going to come up, and she's going to play in the background. I'm just going to go sit for a minute. And I want you to ponder on these things. In your relationship with God, do you see God as safe, or does he intimidate you? Is God safe? Does the truth of who God is breathe life into you? Does the truth of who God is breathe life into you? And then, is there anything that we believe of God that needs to be corrected? I am a product of a long history in the church. I've been discipled by a community of believers. I would not trade that for anything. I am so grateful for that. But oftentimes the church has fed some things unintentionally about God that's not necessarily true. So is there something that you or I believe about God that needs to be corrected? I'm not going to explain those things and correct those things. We're going to take some time and let the Spirit of God speak. He wants to tell you the truth about him. He wants to show you the true essence of his character. We're just going to let him do it. I was with a group this week, and we were meditating over the transfiguration. And of course, there's Peter, James, and John are up there with Jesus, and they're on this mount. And right before them, Jesus is transfigured. His face is shining like the sun. And there, I don't know how they knew it, but there's Elijah and Moses right beside him. Of course, Peter didn't know what to say, so he just spoke anyway. He was like, hey, I can do something. We can do something. And I thought about that, and it's just like, here's Jesus. His face shining like the sun. Moses and Elijah, we can't reach that. We can't do anything to, be worthy of anything of that, right? Peter wanted to build some monuments, which was typical. That's great. He couldn't reach that. And so God's voice came and he said, this is my son. I'm well pleased. Listen to him. Of course, Peter, James, and John were just face down. But then Jesus came and put his hand on him. It's almost like, yeah, you have no idea. You can't reach this way and reach God this way. But I'm here. And he put his hand on him. He said, get up. It's that reminder that Jesus is the intercessor, that he is fully human, fully God, and we could never reach that. But yet, Jesus, in his physical form, put his hands on the guys and said, okay, it's okay. Get up, I'm here. And when I was sitting there, that's what Jesus told me, reminding me, and he wanted me to, I think, to express to you that he's for you. He's for you. He's not against you. He is your greatest advocate. He's your greatest intercessor. He is for you. Father, we say we want to be in proximity of knowing those things that are well beyond us. Your ways are way beyond our ways. Your thoughts much higher than our thoughts. We cannot reach that. But Jesus, praise be to you, you made a way. And we praise you, King of kings, Lord of lords, Alpha and Omega, beginning and the end, the great morning star, the lily of the valley. All those things that were said about you in truth are absolutely true. You are that and much more. And we love to love you because you first loved us. Thank you for your truth in Jesus' name. Amen. I believe I think you're dismissed. Have a great Sunday.